In this video, I drive on my first street circuit, I go crying back home seeking comfort, and I participate in a hosted race for the first time ever. Oops! Before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to 2 beginner sim racing YouTube channels like myself. I know, it's pretty dang early for me to be giving shout outs, but I realize I'm painfully slow at pumping out new content for you guys, and these guys have much better work ethics than I do. I want to improve my time efficiency to increase my video throughput as I gain more experience, but if you've been itching for new sim racing content, these guys might help with that. They haven't asked me for a shout out or anything, but I've been enjoying following along their journey as it is so similar to mine. First up is Beyond the Apex Motorsport. He does multiple videos per week and he streams on YouTube Live. He will make content faster than you can watch. Second is Sim Racing Kez. He does weekly uploads, potentially semi-weekly uploads, and he has some really cool giveaways going on, plus a weekly subscriber race on Saturdays. Check out their videos and see if you vibe with them like I have. I was preparing for something else entirely, a big project, but sometimes life doesn't give a crap about your racing calendar. Don't worry, I'm fine. It was only a small scare for my area. I'm lucky that I only get to be upset about missing a stupid race. I find myself at the local Long Beach GP, a street circuit with no runoff, low traction racing surface, and the tightest hairpin I have ever seen. And my weapon? The Porsche 992 Cup car. High horsepower, low downforce. No ABS, no traction control. This turned out to be the most treacherous combination. You might be wondering, what is that red number in the corner? That is my heart rate. I always see my fellow sim racers tell me that they are feeling nervous or their heart is pounding. Well, I figured it would be better to just show you. I tend to go quiet when I get nervous, so it's not very visible on camera, so I thought this worked out great. For reference, my resting heart rate while laying down is around 60. Long Beach doesn't care if you're ready. From the first lap, this track made one thing clear. Hesitation is death. Every corner is an ambush, blind apexes, narrow chicanes, and a hairpin so tight it feels like a cruel joke. And the Porsche Cup car? It's unforgiving. No ABS means locked brakes at every missed braking point. No traction control means every throttle input has me skittishly brushing the accelerator as if it's made of hummingbird eggs. After an unbelievably long practice over 2 days and tons of steps backwards, I realized my answer to Long Beach is to completely detach from the idea that it will be a race and drive like it's a relaxing Sunday trip to the beach. Abandon speed. Go all in on consistency and control. Every input has to be deliberate. Overdriving here doesn't just cost you time, it costs you the entire race. I never actually felt like I fully learned this car and track combo. I drove painfully slow, and I wasn't even sure if it was a good idea for me to sign up for a race. Long Beach turns up the intensity to 11 when you're surrounded by other drivers. Every corner was potentially my final resting place. Every wall was made of knives. There's no room for ego here. Just focus, discipline, and a little bit of luck to avoid getting absolutely murked. I let a lot of drivers by and only took positions when they were given to me for free. Every lap was a beating, and every corner felt like it could be my last. But somehow, I made it to the checkered flag with 24 out of 25 incident points. The new week brought back an old challenge, Laguna Seca. I had a really tough time the last time I was here with the FF1600. This was a chance for my redemption arc. But in the Porsche, coming from Long Beach, I was driving too skittish still. I was underdriving the car because I was not used to the traction. I had to recalibrate my senses. As if that wasn't bad enough, I lined up on the grid only to realize right before the start that somehow I'd been put on wet tires. Panicked, I escaped into the pits to switch to the correct tires. But by the time I rejoined, I had already missed the start, with the field already long gone. The rest of the race wasn't much better. I couldn't string together a clean lap to save my life. The only consistency was the rate I was making mistakes. The leaders were soon in my mirrors, and I had no choice but to let them by. One by one, nearly half the field lapped me. Each mistake chipped away at my already fragile confidence, and the thought of quitting loomed over me. Deflated and questioning why I was even putting myself through this, I knew I needed to step away from the Porsche Cup, just temporarily, and that meant retreating, tail between my legs, to the familiar comfort of the MX-5. The car is slower, easier to handle, and definitely a little comforting. Not where I wanted to be, but exactly where I needed to be, to rebuild my safety rating and, more importantly, my mental capital. In the 1300 split, there was not a single rookie in sight. Everyone was exceptionally clean. These guys were not only precise, they were quick too. Given that this was my first time at Lime Rock, I lacked quite a bit of pace, but that didn't matter. I brought my SR back to the middle at the cost of some iRating. Not much else happened until 5:30 a.m. Saturday morning. Oh no, I'm behind Christian. I wake up and start setting up the sim rig to participate in my first ever hosted race.
This is not a test.
Actually, it was just supposed to be a test session to see if everything was gonna go as planned. This was an event put on by Sim Racing Kez,
Enemy spotted.
one of the YouTubers I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And Beyond the Apex Motorsport was there too. Kez was really into the idea of a reverse grid race, but the only way we could arrange that was through heat racing instead of qualifying. This was, I think, nearly everyone's first time with heat racing, and it was super fun and an interesting change of pace. Basically, you just have a short race to see where you would grid for the longer feature race. And there was an option to invert that placement in the hosted session settings. It costs 50 cents per hour for the session host. Thanks for the shout, Gary. But it was probably the most fun I've ever had on iRacing. I've been racing with goals in my sights since the day that I signed up for iRacing. Safety rating, iRating, lap times, etc. I was under pressure to always improve those things, and if I took a step backwards, I would try to keep cool, but in the back of my mind, it ate away at me. But this community race lifted that weight off my shoulders and allowed me to race purely for enjoyment. Except for the parts where I punted 3 people, including the host. Twice. Also, I jumped the light and had to serve an enormous penalty, so after the first lap of the main race, I spent driving by myself. Still, for the brief moments that I was wheel to wheel with this community of racers without the burden of SR and I rating, was just massively satisfying and exactly what I needed from sim racing. It made waking up early on a weekend totally worth it, and I can't wait to do it again. This was a roller coaster of emotions. Chaos at Long Beach, disaster at Laguna, moving back to the MX-5, and a newfound sense of community in Keza's Discord. Oftentimes, racing humbles you, but that's what makes every small victory feel so satisfying. Whether it's one clean lap, a finished race, or just surviving the chaos. And there's no shame in seeking comfort in familiarity and community. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the track. Maybe literally.
Yeah, that sounds good.